Welcome to G-Man Gaming and Reviews. So this is going to be a noob's guide to the Punisher. So for Marvel Rivals, I recently started playing. Well, I've sunk 23 hours into it, so I don't know if it's that recent. But I recently started playing the game Marvel Rivals, and I'm really enjoying it. And so I wanted to do this video to sort of give people, like, not really high-level players, but beginners who are to the game an idea of how to play the Punisher. The Punisher is actually a really good character. He's an extremely good character, but he's also a very good character for beginners because of his kit. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go through that now, and then I'll show you a gameplay. Okay, so the really good thing about the Punisher is if you have a look at, say, these bots here, they have a projectile that shoots, right? A lot of other DPS characters that are ranged are kind of difficult to use because their projectile isn't hit scan. So one of the big advantages that the Punisher has, especially for beginners, is that if your target is on the reticle and you're holding down the button, you'll automatically hit, right? So So you see it does tremendous damage. If we have a look up here at this moving target, you'll see that it's actually really easy to even hit moving targets with the Punisher, right? The Punisher also has a kit where when he gets up close, he has a shotgun. This is really good against vanguards, against tanks, because they're a really big target. So it's really easy to hit them with this, and if they try to walk up to you and get close, you can actually take them out if they're not suspecting you. The Punisher is one of those characters where if he's on the enemy team, you really don't want to leave him alone, because he's gonna be a nuisance. With a good Punisher player, he's gonna be a real. Even when I say good, I don't mean like high level. I just mean someone who understands the basics of how to play him. He's gonna be really good. He's useful for taking out just about everyone. He's useful for dealing with flyers. Because of his hit scan. He's useful for dealing with dive characters. So mainly with the Punisher, you're going to be using his main rifle, and just moving around and getting into positions and moving his rifle and just dropping targets left, right, and center. So we're going to talk about his kit now. So the first thing in his kit is it's called the, what's it called? The Vantage connection, which is a grappling hook. So it's this thing right here. Let's have a look. Now, as you can see here with the Vantage grapple hook, what it does is, when you use it, it actually leaves a grappling hook that you can reuse that the enemy can't destroy. So it has multiple uses. The first is getting you back into the fight, but you can also use it for escaping. Just one thing to be aware of it is it has to actually hit a wall in order for it to work, and you can only have up to 3 at a time. It does have a very long cooldown of 20 seconds, so you're not going to be spamming this, but it is useful for quickly repositioning or quickly getting out of a position. The next one is the smoke grenade. It's useful for if someone's coming at you, like if you've got a dive style character coming at you. So just in case you're an absolute beginner, a dive style character is a character who has extremely fast movement and likes to close the distance, right? So dive style characters tend to be sort of counters to characters like the Punisher, like ranged DPS. So he's pretty decent at dealing with them as well. At high levels, the grenade can be used to do damage like you just saw here. But I'm not really going to cover that because that's more of a high level guide. Right, and then you're gonna come to one of the things that makes the Punisher, which is the turret. Now, this turret is really awesome. It does have a big disadvantage in the fact that when you use it, you can no longer move around. The turret can also not fire directly below it. But the big advantage that it has is that it gives you 600 health from the front, and it does tremendous damage. Now, it's not hit scan like your other weapons are, but it's really useful for holding the line or firing into an enemy. So what the Punisher wants to do is pop his turret at an ideal location, deal a whole bunch of damage, hopefully take out some targets, and then press forward with his ultimate. And then pop his ultimate, and bang, delete enemies, and then just do the same thing over and over again. So that's pretty much the basics of the Punisher. The Punisher is actually really good. The thing that prompted me to make the video though was I find that a lot of people, when they play as the Punisher, especially beginners, they don't really understand how powerful he is. They don't understand like how powerful the turret is, how the turret alone can turn the tide of battle. The turret is really useful for a couple of things. One is keeping the enemies away from choke points, right? Which you will see me using when I go through one of the gameplay videos, one of the gameplay parts. But it's also really useful so the turret does AoE damage, right? So it's really useful for firing into a cluster of enemies, and it's also really useful for firing in the midst of a brawl, right? When you've got your team brawling up close with the enemy team, right? One thing to be aware of with playing the Punisher is that if you over-rely on the turret, it can be used against you, because there are characters like Spider-Man and Venom who can get at you quite easily if you're not careful, right? So sometimes, like, if you're popping the turret and the enemies come and the enemies getting you, or they're waiting for you to pop a turret, stop doing it. Just start moving forward, staying with the team, killing anything that could kill the team. So the Punisher is really good if the enemy isn't focusing on you. If they're not focusing on you and they're preoccupied with dealing with other members of your team, that's where the Punisher is really good. The Punisher is really one character that you want to keep next to your healer, because it allows him to stay healed, and he can also use his firepower to force enemies back, right? Because his assault rifle has 30 shots and it's got a very high rate of fire. It can be used to deal with enemy snipers quite well. You might not be able to kill the enemy snipers, but you'll be able to force them back, which will make you think twice about trying to come after you. So even though I have seen videos where they say the drop-off on this weapon is quite high, it is still useful at long range. So what we're going to do now, so that's pretty much the basics of the Punisher. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to show you a gameplay video. And then we will, which will really show you how to use the turret. Alright, this particular game here, I actually did really good, 22 kills. Let me show you, because this one really shows you like how to use the turret. That's one of the things that I find with when I watch other people play the Punisher, is that they don't use the turret enough, or they pop it in bad areas, right? So let me show you what I'm talking about, so you can see this. In this particular game, I had pretty good turret placement. Here we go.
Get ready. All you need to do is capture the mission
So
area.
already what I'm doing is I'm looking for a place to find a place where I can pop the turret. And as you can see here, good line of sight. And I'm doing tremendous amount of damage.
Looks like the mission area is yours to capture now.
And as you can see here, I'm following up with the assault rifle. See how it's really good at taking out enemies from long range, especially the non-tanks. Okay, so now what we're going to do is that we need to defend that area. So I'm looking for another position of where, and I find it perfectly up there. And here we go, another turret. And see, I'm holding the line. I'm not just doing damage, I'm forcing the enemy back, which is helping my team. Because now the enemy's trying to avoid me. Okay, and then I use my team ability with Rocket Raccoon to do damage.
Judge, jury, executioner.
And then I pop my ultimate.
Double KO! Disappear!
That might not have been the best time to pop the ultimate. But the reason I did it was because I wanted to secure the area.
Your progress has passed the halfway point.
Whoa! Did you see that green 8? I want one.
And here we find another angle. Not the best angle, but it's far enough away that I can support my team while still doing damage. And as you can see here, they try to close the distance, and I think they get me at this point.
Someone smash like that. Heads up, hostiles.
Yeah, I try to use the shotgun here, and I'm not that good with my aim, and I get taken out. But I've done so much damage at that point that we pretty much won the game by that point. Now the enemy was making a mistake here where they should have gone after me. Here we go, another safe spot. Not the best spot, but supporting my team. And then I immediately move back there.
Let's keep fighting until we have a winner.
And now we're forcing. Now they're getting desperate because they have to try to control that position. But I've done so much damage by that point that I think I put my ultimate here.
Judge,
yep.
Jury, executioner.
But by that point, we've already won. Might not have been the best place to pop an ultimate, but... And that's an example of, in my opinion, good turret positioning, right? I wasn't really doing anything advanced. I was just really using my turret really well. I was positioning it. It wasn't the best positioning, but I was sort of having to go with the flow. So that's really like the idea behind the turret, is that you just really need to pick your spots to use it, right? Now, as you can see, once I finished using the turret, I then started moving in with the assault rifle to mop up who was left. But that's pretty much how the Punisher works at the beginner levels. Is you just want to pop that turret in areas to try to get do as much damage as possible, potentially get some kills. You want to focus, so in terms of target priority, you want to focus on anything that's flying, anything that can get to you, right? So anything that's flying, anything that's fast moving. So Star-Lord, Spider-Man, Iron Man, especially Iron Man, because a lot of the times Iron Man, depending on the map, he'll be so high that if you're not playing against an advanced player who's popping in and out with Iron Man, he's just going to be flying above doing damage. And if you're not careful, he's going to cause a lot of problems. So anybody who can move really quickly, Spider-Man, is also really useful. Now, one thing that I didn't cover, one thing that I did not cover, one thing that I didn't cover about him, was his passive. So the Punisher has a passive in that he retains vision of enemies that disappear from view for a short duration, right? This is actually really good when combined with the turret. The reason being is that if an enemy disappears from your view, you can keep an eye on them for a short period of time to see if they're coming around to come get you. So one of the things about like the Punisher is He likes working with. He really likes tanks. He really likes divers. So that the divers are really useful with the Punisher, so that when he's done a lot of damage to them and they start running away, they go hunting that character, right? But sometimes you might need to reposition. But that's the thing. Like it says here, deploy a Culling Turret that grounds the Punisher and blocks damage from the front while dealing massive damage. The turret deals a lot of damage, right? It's your main source of big damage, so you really need to use it well in order to really use the Punisher. Now, one of the things that's really good about the Punisher is like playing him well with the turret is understanding where the choke points are on the map, right? If there's a choke point on the map that an enemy has to move through, putting a turret in there to cover it is actually to cover it with suppressing fire is actually really good. Now, the last thing that I will say about the Punisher is if you are using the shotgun, try to hit for the head. It does, even to tanks, it does a significant amount of damage if you headshot them. And because of its blast radius, it's actually it can be pretty easy to, well, not super easy because they're going to be rushing at you, but it can be somewhat easy to hit them in the head and do significant damage. I have occasionally taken out divers who have come after me with the shotgun because they tried to close the distance. So you definitely should use it. If you're playing on mouse and keyboard, if you scroll the middle mouse button, it'll change between the weapons. So like I said, with the Punisher, when you're doing the turret, depending upon like your positioning, right? So if you've got a big wide field of fire, right, with the positioning, you probably want to focus on things in the flanks that can get to you. But if it's like a small cramped area which you're shooting through, right, you kind of don't need to do that. You just need to lay down suppressive fire so that the enemy can't move through it. The turret has a lot of ammunition, right? And the good thing about it is it doesn't actually disappear until you take damage or you drop it by pressing E again. So the other thing is that if you're playing with Rocket Raccoon, who's a really popular healer, he can drop down in a buff that gives you infinite ammo and faster firing, which is basically like another turret, basically. So one thing to keep in mind. So it's really powerful. In my opinion, not as good as the turret, but it does allow you to lay down suppressive fire as well because it's infinite ammo and faster firing. So Winter Soldier also benefits from this. Winter Soldier, in my opinion, would really love it because it gives him infinite ammo and he only has 3 shots before he has to reload. But this was my Noobs beginner's guide to the Punisher. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already done so. I look forward to playing more Marvel Rivals, and I will see you on the next one. Alright, bye!